Tiger, I need you to do me a huge favor. Can you please take your name off this phone? My wife went through my phone and maybe call you.
I done had a woman pee in a cup while we was driving and I drunk it.
Oh, okay.
What? What?
You know you inspire me to
What?
So listen while
Side closed. I stay at home for most of the time.
Public and it's a fucking embarrassment. You look like a fucking bitch on E. And if you get raped by a pack of niggers, it'll be your fault. Alright?
I'd like to.
Nobody wants to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Oh, can I make sweet love to
So
you?
whatever you want, I want to tell you, they lied. They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
All right.
To me, from them, I have always said, and will say today to you, John, that I still believe the most likely origin is from an animal species to a human.
Oh, nigga, please. He lied. Y'all niggas worship him.
You run around here taking all them goddamn boxing lessons? Box that
I
bitch.
guess you'd call me an obscene phone caller.
You know, based on the current way things are going, the best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from black people. Just get the fuck away.
Sort of physical love like, Baba.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?
Oh, you're the sweetest fantasy I know. You. Excuse me if I seem obscene to you. I'm being real and that seems the thing to do.
Psst. Hey, come here. Hey, come here really quick. I got something to show you. No gay shit. I promise, it's no gay shit. No. Hey, look at this. Look. You see that? Do you see it? You see that they've been lying to you? You see that they've been lying to you with coronavirus? With COVID-19, huh? You remember that? Remember when it was racist to say that it came from the lab out there in China where they were doing gain of function research? Pepper's Farms remembers. Do you remember? Yes. Welcome back to the podcast about randomness for Friday, March 3rd, 2023. I started recording this at exactly 11:11 a.m. And that was not on purpose. So this might be a good one, folks. This I might have been tapping into something that I didn't even know I was tapping into. Yeah, I'm not going to stick too much on it. To nobody's surprise, they were lying about the origins of COVID-19. Fauci was caught lying. And I don't know about you, but I feel like that guy should be arrested. Fauci, over his reign of the, whatever he was, the director of whatever the fuck he is or was, he hit 2 huge grand slams, in terms of, creating a virus, and getting people sick and killing them. He hit the first grand slam with, HIV AIDS, which now somehow, after all this time, they have seems like they have a cure for. So gay dudes rejoice, have at it. You can now have, all the unprotected butt sex you could ever want. And then of course his second grand slam was, COVID-19. And I'm not even going to get too much into it. You know what I mean? There was those of us who knew that this shit was fishy from the get-go, and then there was a vast majority who got tricked into being scared, and who got tricked into taking God knows however many shots they've taken so far with, the boosters and et cetera, that has no long-term studies for it. So, we'll see how that goes. And, if you do happen to have any adverse reactions to it, you'll be happy to know that, you can't even sue them because, they got that, Emergency Act, passed. So you can't even, if anything happens down the line, since there was no long-term research before they just started giving out fluids to put in people's bodies, yeah, you can't sue them. But I'm going to get off that. Dilbert, the creator of Dilbert, Dilbert's a wild dude, man. I think he took one study where apparently they asked 1,000 black people if it was okay to be white. I want to say like 22% said no. I think the other like 28 something or something somewhere around there said I don't know, which is pretty much saying, get the fuck out my face. I don't care about this shit. Then the other 50% said, yeah, it's okay to be white. Dilbert took that information and he somehow summated that out of the 1,000, and who knows who the fuck these people are surveying, like what black people are they surveying? Because I know none of my homeboys have ever been surveyed. I've never been surveyed. You know what I mean? I don't know. So I don't know what niggas they're surveying. For all they know, they're making up surveys themselves and, just saying they're black and, but anyways, Dilbert took that little bit of information and decided why people should get away from black people, which is fucking hilarious. He's more than likely doing it to get views. But it is still a funny ass statement to, it's just funny in general to take a one survey out of 1,000 black people and surmise that half of black people in America say it's not okay to be white. Hey, Dilbert, I got news for you, buddy. We don't give a fuck. There's a lot more shit we need to be worried about than whether or not, you're white or not, At the end of the day, it doesn't fucking matter. We are, we are human beings. We all have to go to sleep. We all take shits. We all take pisses. You know what I mean? We're all the same. That type of thinking is, the same, it's fucking off. Like, I don't understand why people are so fixated on race. You got Pete Buttigieg, who before he even said anything about the Ohio train derailment, he was talking about, getting more black people jobs. And, it's not the way to go about it. You know what I mean? You should only get a job if you're qualified for it. You know what I mean? I would I don't know, man. You have the White House press secretary who, is just happy that the Biden, she takes all blame that was going on with the Biden administration. Like, how come Biden went to go visit his butt buddy Zelensky before he went to go to East Palestine out in Ohio? She deflected that question with, look at how many gay members there are in Biden's cabinet. Look how many people of color there are. And it's like, bro, who the fuck cares? I don't understand how we're moving backwards and forwards at the same time. You know what I mean? I'm convinced now that race is always going to be an issue until the day the Earth stops spinning, or until we get hit by another solar flare, or until we continue with this silly ass war with Ukraine and Russia, or we might get taken into World War III. But I'm convinced now that race, for whatever reason, is going to be, well, not for whatever reason, it's because they want it to be a reason. That's the fake stream media's agenda. They want that division so they can push fear. and whenever fear gets pushed and there's a people divided, so there's no open dialogue, you know what I mean? There's no real discussion being had. It's either you agree with me or you don't. Whenever they have that division and they're able to push fear, they're able to get you to lock down for 2 weeks. They're able to get you to, go take shots, that they claim was a vaccine. They said that it would stop. And then, once you get it, it turns out to not be the case. It doesn't stop anything. And then you still have to take another shot. Yeah, man, they're winning at division. And I don't have a solution on how to fix it. The only solution I have is, to keep talking and, keep exposing lies. I have officially I'm pretty sure I say this all the time, but, there's levels to being retarded, and I keep descending further and further into the madness. I got stuck in a YouTube rabbit hole, where this guy is pretty much showing, what would look like mountains. But underneath these mountains, there's brick. And the more you look closer to these quote unquote mountains, these mountains look like castles or housing. And, it's just more evidence of there being a, ancient lost civilization, before the Native Americans, obviously way before, Columbus came here. If he came here, I'm not even sure if he really came here or not, but, before any major discovery of America, you look at all these, and if you don't believe me, you could just, you could look at it yourself, but, there's all these just, ancient ruins, everywhere, throughout the world. But, let's keep it in America because this is where I'm at. But throughout America, there's ancient ruins in places where, not even close to a city. And, when you cuddle that and, you go back into these world fairs and, you look at the world fairs and you look at like what was really going on about these world fairs, where it was more than likely an indoctrination process where we were coming off of the last reset. And this is as early as, in the 1800s is where shit really gets, where shit really starts to get weird. They found an old notebook of, one of the world's fairs. And the notebook, instead of it, going over, the monuments, like all these great buildings that, again, they supposedly built, in 2 years. And again, you could just look at these, buildings and there's no way that any of this shit got done in 2 years. So the notebook that they found, it was like schoolwork. The notebook, it wasn't explaining any of the attractions at the World Fair. It was each attraction had an instructor and the instructor told you what was happening. You were to write that information down. And at the end of whatever exhibit you were at the World Fair, the instructor was to look it over and give you a grade. So, that sounds like school to me. And whenever you look at it, it's pretty obvious that, cause this was before, mass media, you know what I mean? Before televisions, before movies. So they were doing like these plays at the World Fair of what was happening. So for instance, there was a, play about the Immaculate Conception, the birth of, Jesus Christ. And there was a play about, the Roman Empire and the Gladiator Wars. There was a play where they had slaves, being happy, where they were singing songs, and a lot of, you can kind of track to a lot of what the slave songs you hear now to what they were singing back at these world fairs. And it's like, it's, I know this sounds fucking crazy as hell, but it's easy to, it sounds crazy, but for me, it's easy to believe, because whenever you look at, Hollywood media and shit like that, like that's, they're telling you a story as they see it, you know what I mean? And, kind of the similar, that's like what their news was, they were using the World's Fairs as, the re-education of America off of the, the last reset. And, again, none of this shit makes sense. You could take a look at, I think that they said, let's take a city like Utah, right? Because the Utah is synonymous with, it's weird how there was even a Salt Lake there. I think they said that the Mormons, let me look this up. And I encourage you, if you're retarded enough to look this up with me. Let's see here. They'll tell you that, the Mormons found Utah in around 1847. But then, you take a look 50 years later and look what, and so you go from 1847 and you could just let's go to 1920 Utah photos, and you'll see what I mean. Like, there's no way that this place was founded in 1847. Supposedly, that's what they tell you. So a little over 70 years later, and just look at the image. Look at some of these buildings that were built. And again, you got to remember, Utah is it's a mountainous area, and again, the mountains in Utah, especially, there's a lot of exposed brick underneath some of these mountains that these people find. And you got to remember, Utah was it's mountainous. How the hell were these people passing through mountains? And remember, we were supposedly in horse and buggy up until like 1912, right? So they were horse and buggy going through treacherous mountains. Lord knows what this weather was like, right? And a little bit of 70 years after that, look at the buildings, buildings that make no sense for the time period, but buildings like that make no sense for the time period are found everywhere. There's all these, buildings that, look like you would see, across the world, throughout America during our time period when, we had absolutely nothing to do with, once we had got our freedom, over 100 years later, we had nothing to do what was going on during the colonial time. You see all these same buildings, throughout the United States, across the world, almost like uniform, like same exact style. And it's, again, there was no, mass communication. You can look at Utah and, you could see the buildings that, we as people built in, 1869. But look at like some of the first buildings of the Zion's, Cooperative Mercantile Institution in 1869. Again, you could see what we have the capacity to build. But then jump to, a picture of downtown Salt Lake City in 1905. There's the LDS Temple, the Tabernacle and Assembly Hall. You can see the Brigham Young Monument in the middle of the intersection. And again, these are on horse-drawn wagons down the street. Again, and, streets that would have been super muddy. You know what I mean? This is Utah, but, how do we build something like the LDS Temple, the Tabernacle and Assembly Hall, with all this tech that's on it, you know what I mean? Tech that's more than likely gathering energy the free energy that's honestly all around us. You know what I mean? And we as humans, we haven't built anything like any of these old structures that you'll ever see in these old photos. We haven't built anything like it. And the narrative will say, well, they just, back then they knew how to build things. And if let's say we take that, let's say we take that thought, okay, they know how to build things. But typically whenever you're building things with this type of precision, with this type of care, it takes longer to build, not shorter to build. You know what I mean? Then, look at the picture of where there, if you are, indeed looking this up, there's picture at the Saltaire. And look at that massive building in the background of that Saltaire. If you're looking at the same photo I am, it's of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's six people in the Saltaire. This is a photo from 1910 that I'm looking at. And in 1925, that beautiful building that was more than likely an energy building. Again, look at all the antennas and stuff that were, all this tech that are on top of these. That's on top of the top of the buildings, that just supposedly burned down in 1925, and then continue to look at photos of Utah today. And there's, nothing. It's, we haven't built anything like these old photos that we've seen. And, we more than likely never will, because we were more than likely not the people that built them. This was looks like it was from an ancient civilization. And again, this same photo that you could see in Salt Lake, there's buildings that look the same throughout the world, throughout the whole fucking world. Not just in Utah. You can see it in Chicago. Again, there's all these old buildings that we find in almost every city in America. And again, a lot of these, they end up getting turned into museums, the one that they keep, and then they destroy. And it's these people had a technology that was far more advanced than us. And again, whoever came out victorious after this, after this reset that we were coming out of, they kept that tech for themselves. It's when you look into it, there's from the narrative that is told to us to all these, and again, you can look at old photos of all the world's fairs that we had in America. All these, like amazing design buildings, and where in this time period, where were you getting the stone from to make these buildings? You look at the Palace of Fine Arts, like all this glass that they had to bring in. And all these buildings just catch on fire after a couple of fucking, after the World's Fairs are done, they either go in with literal dynamite and blow up these buildings, or they miraculously catch on fire. You could draw the conclusion that they were getting rid of stuff. And why wouldn't they? It's whoever wins whatever war, or whoever comes out from the underground, and there's nobody left. There's going to be we're humans, so we're inherently flawed, and we all want power. Some people want it way more than others, but there's always there's always a human instinct for a power grab. And so, of course, whoever comes out victorious, is going to write the story that the way that they see fit, the way that makes them look good. You can look at it with the, the Crusades, the Catholics against the Muslims, you know what I mean? I was in Catholic school up until I believe it was like first grade or something. And, how come they never told me about the Crusades on the Cathars? You know what I mean? The Cathars who who had a lot of the similar beliefs of Catholics at the time, but they believed that we were actually living on hell, that Earth is actually hell itself. You know, the way to end the reincarnation trap was to, not have any kids, was to, and I don't know if I don't know if I believe any of this or not. Well, they said that you could be a Cathar and you could still eat meat, you could still have babies. But if when you died, you would return back, your soul would be trapped here on Earth. And the way to end that soul trap, was to, you could still have sex, but, you couldn't conceive, a child because, you were just trapping another soul into this realm by conceiving, by birthing another human, which, our bodies, they considered to be soul traps. They wanted you to be vegan, and then from there, pretty much just live a good life. And that's how you would end the reincarnation soul trap, and how you would get to, greener pastures, for lack of a better word. But yeah, we hear about the Crusades against the Muslims and everything, against the Turks. But we never hear about the Crusades against the Cathars. And, and why would we? I mean, the Catholics are the same people who a Pope had to resign, cause he knew other popes were out there molesting. He was I think he moved one Pope who was who molested over 100 deaf kids, or something like that, knew about him and just relocated him. You know what I mean? Yeah. And if you get into the Cathars, they believe that we're worship, that, God as we see him today is actually the, the wrong God to be, he's actually the devil. And, whether that's true or not, it's, I don't know. And, I don't think anybody knows, you know what I mean? Again, because we're only being told the narrative from the winner's perspective, you know what I mean? And why would, if you can burn, if you can burn books and, you can kill off, all these races of people, you know what I mean? You could pretty much tell anything to anybody, you know what I mean? And how are they not going to take it at your word? You know what I mean? So again, I'm not saying that what I've been looking into is right or wrong, but it makes a lot more sense than, we were, supposedly horse and buggy all the way from the 1800s. I mean, we were horse and buggy from pretty much day one. And then in 1912, in the 1900s, they somehow found out, about electricity. Now you had to start paying for electricity, you know what I mean? And then there was cars and, yeah, man, it doesn't make any sense. Especially whenever you look at and again, you can look this up, whenever they first had, Gilligan's Island on TV, people were writing in letters to the Coast Guard, to go save those people because it seemed too real. And, again, if they could trick people then, on television with actors, how couldn't you have tricked people earlier? Let's see, when did Gilligan's Island came out? And again, you can look this up. When did Gilligan's Island air? Let's see here. It first aired in 1964. So in 1964, Gilligan's Island was a little too real for people, and people actually thought that these people were stuck out on the sea. And, again, they were literally writing in letters to the Coast Guard to, they were writing in letters to go save those people to the Coast Guard. like on a daily basis. Again, so if they can trick people in 1964, you know, how couldn't they have been tricking people from the beginning of the World's Fairs to Chicago's World's Fair in 1893, you know? So that's just food for thought.